What's up, guys? Welcome back. This is the 41st episode. I've got my man Conner Rueca, who is in the community with me. He's part of Sub 2, definitely one of the younger wholesalers. Connor, you said you're 21 and wholesaling now with your four brothers. So why don't you kind of kick us off? Tell us, who you are and how you got into real estate investing in the first place.
Wonderful. And first and foremost, Adam, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it. It's a beautiful Sunday. I'm glad to have this conversation with you. But for me, I'm Conner Rueca, and yeah, I do business with my four brothers. So there's five of us total, three blood brothers of mine, and then first cousin. So we're super young, 19, 21, 23, 25, 29, and we've been doing this wholesaling real estate for the past 3 years, and all virtual. In terms of how we got into the business, I actually started it around 3 years ago, and it was truly just taking a chance on myself. I was doing little things here and there, going with my friends, making some money, selling things, buying things, flipping the little stuff. But going into college, I just started to see, I was like, whoa, everyone is racing to the same place, which is essentially just a job. And I happened to meet two guys, two older guys that were graduating that year, and they were doing a startup, so software. And they're like, Connor, listen, I don't know what's gonna happen with this project, but if this project fails, we're gonna make another one. We're never getting a job. And they said, what you need to do, Connor, because we see something in you, is hang out with us every single day. One of them was the president of the school, of the student organization. So he had like an office at school, and he was like, yo, come here every day. We're gonna be working on our software. You can watch us, ask us questions, do your work, whatever. And I did that. And them just saying, I'm never gonna go get a job. I'm gonna die trying, it just stuck with me. And I just started to tell my brothers, and my brothers were like, dude, like, what are you gonna do? And I just happened to find wholesaling in real estate one day. And within, like, this is the type of action that us Ruecas make, kind of bold. I wouldn't recommend this for anyone else. But like, I learned about wholesaling, and around 2.5 hours later, I bought a mentorship. And that mentorship was TTP, Brent Daniels, Rhino Tribe, and that was $6,000. And as a young 19-year-old, $6,000 is a lot of freaking money. I only had like eight in my bank account. And so essentially, I just laid it down, and I said, hey, I'm not stopping until I profit, right? If I don't like the business, I'll do it after I make profit, after I beat that 6K. And I went 7 months with no deals, and essentially on the seventh month, closed two deals, and it was way more than 6K. It was actually six figures, and I just never looked back because that changed my life. And that's kind of how I started Adam.
Yes, that's a little insane. I think that could probably warp some people's expectations, right? Like to make six figures on one deal is ludicrous, and but even on two deals, that's still a lot. So how did you kind of handle that? Because you probably could have, a lot of people almost would have even hung it up there, been like, "Cool, I did it, I'm done."
Yeah, super good question. I was super determined. So my first deal, I was kind of holding on. It was in my pipeline for a very long time. I found the deal and I sold it. We opened escrow, and I found out it had to go through probate. And this is like month three of actually starting the business. And I saw the check. We locked it up at 335 in California, sold it at 400, went into escrow, probate needed to happen. So I already had I was like 65K is waiting for me. I just need to keep going. So as you know, some of those deals, like, they last super long, especially probate. It's California. That could last like 8 to 9 months. Thankfully for me, it lasted only 3 months. And I was just like banging the dials, making sure I'm still showing up every single day. I'm in college at the same time. I was just going to class just to relax. And once class was over, I'm here dialing, calling again. But I just kept going. And then when the deal was like, all right, probate's over, we can actually close in a week, an agent, and guys, this is what's super important about taking action. The first time I started to call agents, I found one agent, and that agent brought me that second deal 2 weeks later. And that second deal locked it up for 280, and I believe I sold it for 320. and they ended up closing the same week. So when that kind of happens, that's like a huge change from $0, right? 6K in the hole, and then for 7 month trade, I was probably putting around like 600 to 700 bucks into marketing and just systems. So I don't know how much that is, maybe around 9K in the hole, and then boom, just 6 figures gets wired into your bank account, and you're still 19 years old, and no one in your friend group like is doing business in that kind of way or even around you, and no one really knows because you've been hidden for the past 7 months, just totally like working and smashing the dials. And it actually got wired when I was having dinner with my brothers and my dad. So funny story is my dad didn't even know I bought the 6K. He actually told me, no, don't buy it. Get a
Hmm.
deal through YouTube, and I will be the one to invest your 6K into get into that mentorship. He said that because he's big in corporate. He wants me to learn. He just wanted me to do a deal, and he would actually put the money down. I did it behind his
Hmm.
back. So when that hit, just being able to show my dad like $105,000 to my dad, I was like, Dad, I actually did it. Look, that's 2 deals. And then showing my brothers, it just motivated us on another level. And it's like you can't look back at that moment. That moment you have to keep going. If I can make 100K at 19, how soon can I get to 500K? How soon can I get to 750 and then eventually a million? So it essentially just became another race, right? You get to the top of the mountain, there's another mountain right behind that, right? So that's kind of just how I handled it. It definitely had a lot of um there was definitely had to be some quality control. I didn't grow up with a substantial amount of money in my wallet all the time, and I never really
Hmm.
asked my parents for money. So like when I had that, it I wasn't like going and splurging or buying a lot of stuff because I still got 4 brothers that want to join the business. Like maybe if it was just me, maybe I'll go and buy something nice, but I was like, I gotta help feed everyone else. So a lot of quality control, and we just kept it in within the business. I took home $2,000, guys. And then my brother joined the following month, and the rule that me and my brother had was if we want to make money, we had to close a deal. Every deal would take $1,000 only. And we just
Hmm.
kept closing deals that were like 18, 23, 25. I would not recommend anyone to do that because I did just read a book and learned from a mentor like profit first, pay yourself
Hmm.
first. I wish I would have done that. It probably could have took us somewhere else at an even higher heights a lot faster. But that was just kind of like the mindset that me and my brothers had. Just, just keep the money within the business. Just take home $1,000 every time you did a deal.
Well, it could, right? Like the profit first model is really good for that reason. It kind of prevents people from getting getting like into the gutters, right? Like you're not trying to go blow it on drugs or partying or doing anything like obscene. And most people can blow that kind of money. 105 is a lot. It's a huge sum, but you'd be amazed how fast people would go through it just with everyday stuff. You know, that new car, those past due bills, maybe paying off those credit cards or student loans or whatever. You can go through it. And Profit First is huge. I read the original book by Mike Michalowicz. There's several iterations of it now. There's one for contractors, there's one for real estate investors, there's one for almost everything. So it's good to, it's definitely good to have under your belt. And it's definitely a book I recommend most people read. So is that
Yeah,
what y'all do now? You got your like call it 4 or 5 different accounts, and you and the brothers separate it all out.
yeah, essentially. And it's a little bit difficult because there's 5 of us and no one has more equity than the other. We all put in the same amount of work. It's all fair. We do play by sweat equity, right? We always have that on top of mind, but there's no actual, someone gets 15%, blah, blah. No, it's anything that we take home, it's split 5 ways within all of us, and it's gonna stay that way. So instead of profit first, I'm pretty sure it's 20% you take home first from the revenue. We actually take home 30%. just and then we split that 30% 5 ways with us. So we consistently have to continue to close deals because it's not that much money. If you know a 10K deal, 30% profit, that's 3K. You gotta split that 5 ways, $600.
Mhm.
So we're continuously working, which is super good because it just keeps us on our toes. But when you're working with that big of a team and you guys are all committed to essentially kind of live small, even though we're doing a lot of deals, it's worth it because honestly, it's all about the journey for us.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, that's the great thing about Profit First is it kind of just tells you when you get this huge lump sum of check, where do you allocate it to, right? And so in this case, your 30% would be your comp account. That would be the compensation for the owners of the partners. And, the other 70% gets divvied up between, like, say, like tax accounts and things kind of that nature. But yeah, filling up that comp account's a really, really big deal because you want, like I said, you want everybody to eat. You want them to do well. So it sounds like you got your system maybe once or twice a month, you'll empty the comp account. 20% of that goes to this partner, 20 to that, 20 to that, 20 to that. Um, how did they do with getting into this? Because I'm sure this it sounds like it was all just kind of one big whirlwind, right? Like you do really well. You come home with 105 grand that you can probably show them in a banking app. Like, hey guys, look at this. You know, um, how did they do when they were jumping into the business with you? Because building that team, it sounds like it's easier with family, but it can also be not. It's definitely not an easy task to not only build a team but establish culture.
100%. It was probably the most difficult part of 2024 for us, just getting everyone acclimated. But all of us were in school, right? So I'm the 21-year-old, my 19-year-old brother, he just got into college when he joined. I was I started when I was a sophomore, so I was still in school, and I actually finished school last year, December 2024. I don't know how I did it, but I did it. And my older brother, my two older brothers, 23, 25, they're in master's program. And then my oldest cousin, 29, he was out of school already. He was just working for the family business of his mom and dad. So essentially what it looked like was I closed the two deals. Alec, the brother right above me, just finished undergrad, but he was going into masters. He joined me like 3 months later. We did deals together, just me and him for 6 months. And then all my brothers, my youngest brother and then my oldest brother and our cousins just started trickling around late 2023, early 2024. And it's hard because in a wholesaling business, if you have five leaders, five masculine men who want high responsibility, there's not that much work for everyone to be totally on top of something that's really important, right? So we really had to divvy it up. Some of us were just salespeople. Some of us were leaders. Some of us were executives. But we still made, it was still 50-50 all around. But essentially, what you have to do is everyone has to be able to get comfortable on the phones first, right? So that was the biggest thing, and that's a hard bump because none of us had sales experiences before that. When I started, I guess I was selling little things before then in high school, but it was like there wasn't any actual sale or like verbal communication to make more money. It was just, I have this product, you could buy at this price, and people just rose their hand or text me, yeah, I want it, right? There wasn't
Mhm.
really much like negotiation. So just for all of us, it was just interesting because we all thought that we were going to go into the corporate world. We all thought that we were going to get a job. That's what our parents did. So everyone, as they're acclimating into taking sales calls, it was extremely hard to just keep that culture, keep that confidence up, let them know, like, look, like, we got this. Like, we have a business. You guys all see it. We just made money. Me and Alec just closed a couple deals. You guys just have to keep going. And if I could give any wisdom, it's like the only way to change your earning is you got to change your learning. So I immediately put that down to them. I said, look, if you guys want to be successful with me and Alec, you guys just have to learn as much as possible and as fast as possible, right? And then at the end of the day, don't just consume. actually implement, right? So we were training little by little, a lot of role playing, and then implement. Do it in actual real life, do it in calls. And everyone now, like, it's been almost a year when all of us been in the business. I've been in the business for 3 years, Alec like two, and then all of our brothers around a year and a half, a year, some like 10, 11 months. But like now, like everyone is like solid on the phones now. So now we can really go into new ventures. Someone steps out, like I did. I actually stepped out of the wholesaling business last year, and I'm actually doing another business, and my four brothers are running that. But essentially, now that everyone's good on the phones, everyone understands the sales processes, the process of a deal, a transaction coordination, disposition, acquisition, we can start stepping out and replacing ourselves. But we just kind of hit that recently. So now we're kind of like in like a new game where it's like, hey, if we wanted to hire another person, we could because we've done this for a while. We can train them and then someone can go and make some more money for the family. So it was hard, bro. Like I can't like I'm sure if you can just imagine, I don't know if you do business with your siblings. I know you have five siblings. I don't
Hmm.
know, like, can you imagine like trying to train them and make sure that they're on the same team and no drama and everyone's kind of putting in the same work? Like, can you imagine how crazy that could be?
Oh no, bro, it'd be a shit show. Like it's outright. Like because like you said this off recording, you're like, I'm really blessed that, my siblings all had the same drive that I did. But like I didn't have those siblings that wanted to do what I wanted to do. And
Mm,
I find that my scenario is a little bit more common than yours is, right? Like I was just like that black sheep. And so I went off and started, like I was telling you before, my first LLC that I filed with the state was in back in like 2013 or so. I was 19 years old. That was my first taste of it. Um, but I learned everything that I learned along the way by doing that. From being in smaller W-2 jobs, kind of in between having businesses, or being 1099 and being a contractor, or just like I said, just having my own business. And so, but what I'm putting down here is that one of the things I picked up on that you said, and this is how I build my culture now, is you center it around some of the hardest things, and you make sure that they know that like leadership is not exempt from doing the hard things. Like even in my business now, what I tell anybody that comes out with me when we go do work, I tell them it's like I usually will take the harder jobs and give you the easy ones so you can watch me do them. And whether it's raining outside like it is today, where it's really, really ugly, like, guess what? I am right there with you. If there's even a chance to duck out from it, like, you get first shot at that. Like, I really believed in, Simon Sinek had that book, it's Leaders Eat Last.
mm,
So, that is how culture is built, right? Like, everybody wants the pretty poster on the wall, like, look at me climbing the side of a mountain. Like, no, that's not that's not what culture is. Culture is what do I see you do that I want to emulate, right? And the hardest part is that even if you don't establish a culture has been established, you know. And if you didn't establish it intentionally, then you're going to be fighting against it because it's probably not a good one.
100%. Yeah, that's I guess that's exactly how you can explain how our brotherhood works. We all have different types of working hard too, right? We have different types of work ethics and we accept it within each other. Like for me, I'm just a steamroller. Like I'm just going to make as many dials as possible. I'm gonna grind it out. And I notice that not all my brothers are like that.
Hmm.
But if they see me doing it, they're going to push as hard as possible to emulate kind of the same energy that I'm putting out. And just like you said, yeah, I literally would take calls in front of them. There was even a time where a PPL came in. You know what a paper lead is?
Yep.
So
Explain it though, just for the new investors.
yeah, so pay per lead, it's like it's a it's a marketing channel. And what it is it's a whole nother company that is running ads. And then when they get an ad, they actually sell the lead. You pay them per lead. Forgive me for that. But essentially that company sells it to people and it's either a bid or you just buy it for a flat fee. And we had just bought a lead, right, guys? With just one lead for like 350 bucks. And it was all of us brothers, and it was at like 7 p.m. at night. And I was like, hmm, is anyone gonna call this? Because I wasn't taking many sales calls at that time. It was them. And I was like, I'm just gonna take this. You guys are taking too long. And I said that on purpose. They weren't taking too long. They were like kind of talking, who wants to take it? And I just dialed it and I stood in front of them. I literally walked right in front of them. We were all just sitting in a circle. And I was taking the sales call. And I was pretty nervous because I was good at talking to sellers, but I had not done it without my script and with them in the room watching me, right? So like I was doing the best I can, and I actually didn't do a good sales call. But we ended up the next day closing that deal, and then we sold it for like 28K. But like just me like taking that opportunity to show them, hey, this is how it's done. Let's just be comfortable enough and confident enough to talk to a seller or a client or a buyer in front of each other, because that's what a real team looks like. So I took that chance and it went super well, but I was scared. Like personally, I was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah." And then I just pressed it and I just did it, and that's kind of what creates our culture.
Okay, but what you just said there is important. I don't want us to like gloss over this, which is that you don't actually have to have the good by the textbook phone call, right? Like I run a wholesale team now. And I actually didn't want a wholesale team, but we joined NOLB and I ended up becoming the operator for the Louisiana team. And we decided because we built such a strong team, we just decided to keep it together. Because normally it ends every 30 days or so. But between the two TCs that we have, myself as the operator, our coach is also our rainmaker, and we've got a handful of freshmen that are just rock stars. But the reason that they're rock stars is because they see what we do and they see the culture that we're trying to build, right? Like we mess around with each other all day long. Like me and my buddy Wes, who's our closer, like we're picking on each other constantly. And but we're having fun, because we know that fluidity is what translates the deals. It's not how many how many words did I get correctly? It's not did I remember every punctuation mark in the script? It's like, does Connor like me because we had a really good call and made him laugh? Maybe I made him smile, maybe because at that point, everything else, all those other transgressions can be forgiven. I could mispronounce your name, but if you and I build a rapport, that doesn't matter.
I agree. I think that's actually what happened on that call, because like if we were just gonna grade that call, I don't think I did great in terms of getting the four pillars, right? Condition, motivation, timeline, price. She actually like stumped me on like something to do with some finances, and it was just new to me, and I kind of just like hesitated, which I don't usually do, but it was just imperfect action. And I did make her feel good because we hopped on a call the following day, and I got an amazing discount. But yeah, you're right. It's not about it being textbook perfect, grade A, right? It's about just literally getting it done, making the person feel good, and then also being able to show that you can actually do it in front of the people that are following you.
Yep. Our coach called in front of all the freshmen and he gave the realtor the wrong address. It happens. It happens to everybody. You think you're looking at 123 Main Street, you're actually talking about, 725 Jones Street or whatever. Because the realtor, he stumped the realtor. The realtor's like, I don't have anything at that address. And he's like, oh shoot, man, I was looking at the wrong card in Trello. Like it happens, it just happens like that. But if you can have fun and you can make people laugh, like, I actually went on an appointment yesterday for a property that we're trying to lock up on a seller finance deal and do a lease option right behind it because I've got the, um, the potential lessee, like, already lined up. And it's super unique because it's actually, it's an equestrian property. Like,
Dang.
I never in a million years thought I would lock up, basically a barn,
Yeah.
but here we are. So that's what we're working on. And, same thing, like, the realtor was a little bit standoffish on the phone, you know? My buddy, our coach, Tyler, calls her, reads the LOI. Of course, I wouldn't say that the LOI was, like, heavily discounted. We actually offered them over asking,
Oh, wow.
and we just put it at 0% interest since we gave them over asking on the purchase. But when he read the LOI and he was like, "Yeah, it'd be like 15,000 down," she was like, and sure enough, she proposes it to the seller, and the seller comes back, he's like, "I want 50% down." And the rest is 7.5% interest and paid off in 3 years, and you're like, "Yeah, okay, bro, like, let's let's try a not fuck you offer."
Yeah.
But, like I said, when we got to the appointment yesterday, um, the realtor was way more laid back, talked her through it. She was like, "I don't know if y'all are still interested or not because my seller rejected your seller finance offer." And I told her, I said, "We probably could get it traditionally if we wanted to. The purchase price isn't that high. It's like it's 300. It's like 295." I was like, "We probably could get it traditionally." I said, "Why don't you take it back to him, see what he would do at 20% down, you know, and we'll go from there." And same thing, like her whole attitude changed. She was way nicer because I took the time to talk to her and build a rapport.
Dude, that's powerful because 'cause we're all virtual. We barely go on in-person appointments. So, like, when we're building that rapport on the phone, like, we try so hard, but I can't imagine just being able to go in person. It'd probably be so much easier.
It is. It's a million times easier. Um, there's like certain there's only there's a certain amount of data that gets communicated through interactions.
Yep.
And the more personal it is, the more bits of data you can get. So I think call it like it might be 7 bits of data from like a text message and maybe like 30 from a phone call, and then it goes up, it might be like 200 from a Zoom call, it might be like 500 from an in-person visit. And then that's why, because so much can be misconstrued and so much of it is reliant upon like things like body language, temperament, tone. Um, there's other like little physical cues that we pick up on, just from being able to like see somebody. And the other reason I like the in-person was because you can kind of play the good cop, bad cop a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, when she was like, "Yeah, my seller rejected your offer," I was like, "Yeah, that's just Tyler. He's just trying to get the best deal he can." I was like, "Don't worry, we could do you a little better." And I called him up right there on the spot, and I said, "Hey, bro, can you generate me another LOI with these terms?" And he said, "Yeah, still send it over to you." So, that's what we did, but, it's come to find out because I was able to do that, because I was like, "No, that's my partner." Um, I I think we can do better. I said, "Why do you think he's not interested in seller finance right now? Do you think it's because of their age?" "Yeah, yeah, he's a little bit older, he's got a heart condition. He actually had a, arrhythmia when I met him to list this property a month ago."
Mm.
Like, "Oh, okay, well, that could definitely, like, play into this a little bit." So you'd be amazed at what you find out, and I think the more in person you can get, doing things virtual is great,
Yep.
but I do see why Pace likes to travel as much as he does just to go walk properties because there's something about it, like, you don't get that experience anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, we've been thinking about just opening up some marketing channels in our area in California. But we're so invested in like just doing it virtually, just being home, being comfortable, being at our computer, and we're good on the phones. We probably just need to do it. And I'm interested. Have you ever done I have a question. Have you ever done a closing call with the seller on Zoom before?
Me personally, no. But like I said, our team does all the time. Like I said, like Tyler, so him and his best friend were both running a local wholesale team, and that's how they did it. Like they would hammer the phones, but then they would go on appointments because every most of the deals they did were in our backyard, and they would go take the pictures and fill out the inspection reports and do stuff like that to kind of really get a good sense of the house and the condition of it. Um, and like I said, I just like it. I like being able to walk up to you, shake your hand, and make a good first impression, you know? Because like I know when I get a phone call, that's what I think of is I'm like, man, the guy on the other side of this could be like they could be in their underwear, they could be in Pakistan, like I don't know. I don't know what the hell's going on. And so I haven't closed a wholesale deal on Zoom. I've closed lending deals on Zoom.
Mm.
I did that. I was playing connector through the beginning of last year, and it was crazy. In like a couple hours, I watched like 400 grand get raised for people's deals on Zoom.
You did it or you watched someone raise?
I brought the investors to the call, and really, really good friend of mine who's in the community, she basically secured the money and closed the deals.
Wow. Yeah, I heard that's super powerful. I know there's a couple wholesalers out there that are just their appointment because they're virtual is they just set it to a Zoom call and they just
Hmm.
have into the face-to-face interaction, walk them through the sales process, give the offer, walk them through the contract, and close them. And I've been telling my brothers it's a bit of it's a bit difficult for us, but it might just be us kind of limiting ourselves. Our main closer is 19 years old, my brother, and he
Hmm.
looks young. So I don't know yet how people would feel if it's like a young 19-year-old looking younger than me, trying to buy their house. But I think we need to do it. That's why I had a question. I was curious if you had any data on it.
I would say that the data still would translate
Yeah,
because people don't aren't buying off of age, they're buying off of confidence,
true.
you know? Colin Hughes was on as a guest and he's 19 and he's been closing all of his own deals. I mean, I knew a guy that was doing six figures in closings, not even in real estate, in like high ticket, like information products.
Yeah.
Same thing, like 19. Like people don't really care about the age as long as you can exhibit a level of confidence. And I think that's what most young people lack is they don't have the competence yet because they haven't done it enough. They haven't gotten the reps. And nobody wants to buy if you're not competent, because if you're not competent, you're not confident. And those two things both show through really quickly, right? Like if you're on the Zoom call, you're like scratching your head, you're kind of like fidgeting a lot, you're like, I don't know. And you're looking up, looking down, looking all over the place, and it gets really, really hard to build rapport because you haven't built that rapport pretty much with yourself yet that you
Mm.
can do this. So I would say to do it in general, live and die by the calendar. It'll make your life so much easier. You can give them a booking link and they can book a 30-minute call. Obviously, you call it whatever you want. You're not going to call it, in the public facing link like a closer call. Maybe call it like a consultation call or something like that. And then that way you can get them to book. It'll come up on your calendar. I know Caleb Christopher buys like a more expensive version of Zoom with like the breakout rooms and everything. So that way him and all of his TCs are always in like a virtual office or virtual conference room. And you can just like route the people directly into those rooms.
So he closes them on Zoom and then just sends them to a breakout room and they're starting like the whole process of transaction coordination.
Yeah.
That's badass. That's
Yeah. He
badass.
said when you look up in like the upper right corner, I guess is where they have the different like the list of all the different like virtual offices, which are just virtual offices are just the breakout rooms. They just have them labeled that way. And so they've got offices and they've got like conference rooms. And they have like one VA that kind of routes people to like, oh, you're booked with Caleb today. I'm gonna put you in Caleb's office with him at this time. Or, oh, you're supposed to be on a conference call with, you know, Caleb and B. I'm gonna put you in this conference room, and so on and so forth. And so that's basically what they do is they hang out on Zoom all day long, but they just get people like routed in. Um, I know Rick Sheldon does the same thing with Open Dispo. He just kind of hangs out in his Zoom room because he has so many appointments back to back to back. It's one recurring link. And he'll just tell you, he'll be like, hey, Connor, guess what? My next 30-minute call is hopping in here. Like, let's catch up soon. And then he'll kick you out because the next person comes in. And then, he does the same thing just over and over and over again for 10, 11 hours a day. But he's closing stupid amounts of new sub accounts on Open Dispo all the time.
Super interesting. And that would 100% work for our business because we're on Zoom all day. It's all five of us. We all three of us live in one house, two of us live in another house. We're all seeing each other's faces live, and we have our VAs hopping in and out, working same time as us. So that's very interesting. I think I'm gonna have
Yeah,
my take a couple of those calls this week because they're giving like I don't know 3 to 5 offers a day. So I'm gonna tell them like let's like A/B test it. Let's do two on Zoom, three on calls, and just do it for like a straight 2 weeks and see where results come out. I'm pretty confident that it would the closing on the Zoom calls, regardless, like you said, of age or how they look, as long as the confidence and the competence is there, it's like that's definitely going to be a higher close rate than phone calls.
you
Without,
could also offer them the option and then they would separate themselves into the split test because not everybody's going to want a Zoom call.
mm,
So you could create a calendar link where they could select phone or Zoom. That's
yeah,
super easy to do.
yeah, because that's like because if you have appointment setters or if the appointment setter is the closer, like that's so easy to just integrate. Oh, that's good. Okay, I think that's
Yeah.
something to implement tomorrow, Monday.
Yeah, bro. It's super easy. And I mean, I'm sure y'all are already using a calendar,
Yeah.
whether it's like Calendly. I use Motion personally, but it's all the same. Johnny, who's hanging out in here, used to give my Calendly link out to everybody. See how many appointments he could get on my calendar, and all become two people.
Everyone needs to join.
And then
That-
then he got mad because I switched to Motion and he didn't have the link anymore.
That's
He's like, I
awesome.
just want everybody to be on your calendar, bro.
I want you to have a lot of friends.
I do have a lot of friends, Johnny. I was the more outgoing one than you were.
You need more.
That's hilarious.
Johnny's wife Van was one of my first friends in Sub 2, and so
Oh
I
wow.
met Van. Van introduced me to Johnny. He's out in California, um, in NorCal,
Oh
or not
nice.
Nor, like the Bay Area. And so me and him have been buddies for a while. But yeah, that's what he used to do. He used to go into the communities and stuff and be like, "Hey, you guys should, meet Adam. Have you met Adam yet?" And he would just start blasting my link out to people. I'd
That's
wake
so
up one day, I'd have sub two students on a calendar. There'd be like a dozen calls, and they're all like back to back to back to back to back, just 30 minutes here, boom, 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 boom.
mhm. That's hilarious. Damn, Johnny, that's powerful. Connecting people. One of my buddies, he has a mission to just connect great people to great people. And the reason he's doing that is because once you connect two people and they make something big together, the people that you two connect, whether it's money, they put a offer together or something, they just collaborate, you're connected within that relationship. And it gets reciprocated over time. And for example, like this friend I'm talking about, he connected me after I did a couple deals in California to an investor wholesaler in Savannah, Georgia. And when we met, he actually brought us together. It was a charity event. And the following week, we jumped to Savannah and we did like 5 deals in like 60 days.
Oh, wow.
And we're still friends with this guy. We're in his mastermind. Like we're surrounding ourselves around him. He's in our brotherhood essentially, and we'll always connect that success of that first 5 deals of virtual business, which we never did virtual business. We did 5 deals in 60 days to him. So that's super powerful, Johnny, that you're connecting people because you're gonna hit on someone, or you're gonna hit on two people coming together, and you'll always be connected to that success.
Yeah, I'm underwriting for Tyler right now, Adam. FYI.
Nice.
Yeah.
See, that was somebody I connected him to.
Nice.
See.
That's actually Connor, the guy I was just telling you about. He's our coach on the NOLB team, and he's got a local wholesaling team. So him and I run the New Orleans meetup here.
Hmm. Where are you at in New Orleans? Is that oh
Yeah,
yeah, that's a city. Yeah, that's a city. That's
yeah,
in
Louisiana.
that's where the
Yeah.
Super Bowl just was there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Super Bowl was just here. Um, that was wild. This city is a mess, but when you get that many people just kind of pouring in, it's a little extra chaotic. But I mean, we did all right. I didn't even go in the city for Super Bowl. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go across the lake. I'm gonna spend time with the girlfriend. We'll
Good.
watch it on TV. It'd be good.
It's better on TV, I bet.
I think it's better with good company, and not stadium prices on food. I don't need a personal pizza for like $17 or a beer for 11. Like, just we had a whole bunch of good people. We had kids running around. We all had a good time, even if the game sucked.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I was with my brothers, so it was chill.
So let's talk a little bit about marketing because you said when you started you were paying like 600-700 bucks a month. You said you had an agent bring you a couple deals. So what does that look like for you? Did y'all just start out doing direct to agent or direct to seller?
We're fully invested into direct to seller. We do direct to agent. If I was gonna break it down to 100%, we're probably like 85% direct to seller, 15% direct to agent. We have our automations and our drip campaigns and um, some AI nurturing our agent relationships, but we're fully focused on direct to seller. We're on PPC, PPL, and we for PPC we do it through an agency. We have a Facebook agency ourselves. PPL, we're buying it from various sources, and then the third one is niche data. So we're just buying it from a third party source, high quality data, and we're cold calling and emailing them.
The PPC you're doing through like Google
Yeah,
through an agency.
Google and Facebook.
Yeah, that makes sense. So pay per click and then you're doing pay per lead.
Yeah, we used to like I would say 12 months ago we were all outbound, no inbound. So what does that mean? That means we were just doing cold calling at that point, and we got up to 8 cold callers, bringing in around 30 to 40 high quality leads a day because we were training all of our cold callers were in house and we had the culture there and we were training them a lot. So we had all of that going on. We had to manage them, train them, spend time with them, answer their questions, and then it just got like I don't know if we should do this anymore. We should just try to go inbound. Play the exit game is what I like to say. Like if we ever needed to sell a real estate company, you kind of can't sell a real estate company if you're just cold calling. You have to
Right.
have, a strong domain or a good inbound system or good CRM, some systems going on. So we kind of looked at it that way, and we've kind of just been going upwards since then.
Well, no, I was gonna say most people don't realize that pay per lead is really just pay per click refined, right? Like you were saying earlier, when you're paying for a lead, it's because somebody else had a huge pool of money and they put it in, they gather a huge pool of leads, and then they refine that leads. And now instead of you paying, call it like $3 for a lead or $10 for a lead, yeah, you are paying like $150 a lead, but that lead is so qualified and so much more motivated. That's what's really helped us on the direct to agent side through the challenge
Right.
was Tyler took the list of everything on market like in the state and
Uh-huh.
went through prop stream and batch, and he stacked lists until we got like the highest quality, most motivated leads. So they got a contract, I think, in less than 20 conversations. He said less than 20. I think it was actually like 10.
And what are the filters on those stacks? Like, is it like recur? Like, how do you even see? Like, is it are you guys trying to find a specific phone number, or are you guys trying to find a specific like house or
Days
property?
on market, um, days on market, equity between 5 and 15%.
Got you.
Um,
So you guys are playing like by motivation.
yes. Yes, we're
Got
playing by the people that don't really have another option that sub two would work really, really well for. Not listed in an LLC, so we know that they're not investors, and trying to remember what else we have. But yeah, it's usually like I'd say it's probably like 90 days on market, 5 to 15% equity, because less than five and you get into negative equity,
you. Mm-hmm.
and more than 15 and you get into hybrids.
Yeah.
So we were trying to just give them like if we could come up with like what's the most softball lead for these guys to kind of like serve up, that would be it. And that's basically all they're doing is we devise a script. Within the script, they send the LOI to the agent. They offer to review the LOI on the phone with the agent, which is a little bit, I don't want to say it's aggressive, but it's a little direct, I guess, right? Because like everybody wants to ask, like, "Hey Connor, do you have a moment? Can we review this LOI?" It's like, no. Hey Connor, I just sent you an LOI. Check your text. And so they open their phone and they see a screenshot of the LOI, and they're like, "Look, if you want to go through it, I while you have me on the phone, like we can go through it line by line." We noticed that just that one line switch right there from like, do you have time or do you want to like, no, I sent it to you. Take a look. Like the amount of leads they were kicking up to closers went way up, and the amount of LOIs they were getting presented went way up. So, like I said, I think Tyler got a contract in 10 conversations.
That's pretty freaking solid.
64 LOIs presented got us 3 contracts total. So we're starting to get to the point where we're distilling down that data and seeing what's really working, what's really not, and kind of where other people are falling off at, right?
Wow. That's cool. So you guys are pulling on market data from prop stream batch leads and then just stacking them 5 to
Mm.
15% equity, days on market, cold calling, sending LOIs, closing. That's awesome.
Yep.
We don't do much DTA. We like the direct to seller stuff, but like DTA, there's pros over there that beat direct to seller every time. You know what I mean? You do a deal with an agent once, and that agent's bringing you so many more deals after if they're confident in you. For example, the first time I've ever did any type of direct agent marketing 3 years ago, I was just cold calling agents in California. Had a conversation with one. It was the last one of the day. 2 weeks later, brought me a deal. 2 months later, brought me another deal, and then last year he brought me a deal.
Yeah, there's two major pros I think of in the DTA strategy that get overlooked, and one is that it's the relationship capital that you can build there.
Yep.
I think the second though is the amount of overhead that you is not required for marketing. Because, dude, you know how much we pay to keep the team up and running?
I mean, maybe the software. That's all.
Yeah, bro, it's like, I don't know, it's less than $100 a month.
Yeah, damn. Yeah, like in direct to seller, you're spending a shit ton of money. Like right now, I think we're about, we vary to really test the market, 12 to 14K a month in marketing direct
Mhm.
to seller because we're doing PPC, PPL. Um, n- well, I think what can compete with direct to agent is niche data. It costs a little bit more, but if you have the systems in terms of email marketing, you're cold calling these guys, single line dialing, you can compete. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
The- It's cheap marketing. And that's why what we made a goal this year, 40% of our revenue is going to come from joint ventures. So we've been doing a lot of marketing just to wholesalers. And what we do is we go on Investor Lift. Do you have Investor Lift, Adam?
I don't have it, but I know it really well.
Yeah, Investor Lift, it essentially tells you who's a wholesaler and who's a flipper and who's a buy and hold. So
Yep.
we just scrape all the wholesalers in there and we're reaching out to them, building connects with them. And I think it's only been what, like 50 days this year. We've closed already 6 deals from joint ventures this year. Smaller,
Nice.
smaller deals, but we're not spending any money on marketing. It's just like that direct agent concept.
Yeah, they're just bringing you the deals. Yeah, that's super smart. That's basically what Pace does now, you know.
Hmm.
He'd rather do the JV, and even if he carries most of the weight, it doesn't really matter because the deal still gets done, and he didn't really have to pay anything to get the deal.
Facts, yeah. It's the direct agent model is no direct to wholesaler and agent very similar. I'm interested what's gonna happen though when they make like Investor Lift free because that's what I've been hearing. They're gonna make Investor Lift free because there's other competitors that are like doing like a subscription for like 150 bucks or something like that. So I'm hearing that Investor Lift like they want to cut that out and just kill that market, so they make it free. Because what I'm seeing is the reason why we're super good at JVs is because we have Investor Lift. So what does it look like when everyone has Investor Lift? We'll
I
see what
think
happens.
it'd be just like everything else. I think, you know, right now the wholesalers that you get from Investor Lift are probably very well qualified because Investor Lift is not cheap.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you have that subscription, it's, you know, it's usually 5 figures a year, to my understanding. I know there's different levels to the license, but you know, if I'm a wholesaler and I'm investing that 10, 20, 30 grand a year in my dispositions, that means I'm doing something right. So I think if it goes free, I think you have the opportunity to get way more JVs, but you'll also have way more wholesalers that you'll have to like kind of weed through,
Mm,
just like anything else. And I think at that point, direct to wholesaler will become nearly identical to direct to agent, right? Because like when I look at the MLS, I have no way of weeding through the good agents and the bad agents. I just have to call the
contact.
agent. And you never know what they do and don't know. You know, I have two friends that are local that are great unicorn agents and they understand all of the ins and outs. They know every contract type. They know how to do bond for deed versus sub two. What's the difference? Like, what does the hybrid look like? What does seller finance look like? They know all that. But like I was telling you about that in-person appointment, when I first called her, she had no concept. She was like, "So are you working with a realtor already?" And I said, "No." I said, "I don't want a realtor." And she was like, "Oh, well, because the seller's paying for it." I was like, "Yeah, that I don't I don't need one. Like, bro, I'd almost rather you make both sides because then you're more motivated to help me do the deal, you know? Like I could give a shit if some other realtor because they was trying to assign me one from Zillow. And I was like, no, I'm not going with some random person that just paid a couple extra bucks to Zillow to get the lead. I told her I said if a realtor is required to do the deal, I will bring a realtor with me. I said, but short of that, I don't want one. And she was like baffled. She was like, huh? What? Like, why would you do that? It's like, bro, we're investors. We don't need a license. You just gotta know what you're doing.
And that leads them to wanting to being able to double dip, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in cases like that, she could double dip. She could make 6% off the listing because she would get 3 from the buyer and 3 from the seller, even though the seller is covering both sides. So she could do that, especially if it meant the deal got done. But yeah, you just like I said, you just never you don't know what other people do and don't know. And you probably see that now with the wholesalers, like even the ones that do have investor lists, you probably still run into a couple where you're like, I don't know about this guy. But I think if investor lift goes free, we will see way better wholesalers come up from nothing, but we'll
Mm,
also see more crap wholesalers kind of appear.
that makes sense. Yeah, you're right. You actually kind of answered that correct. That exactly what would happen. It'd just become direct to agent model.
I think if investor list is going to go free, they should have something on your profile where you can see like deals done or deals dispositioned. Because if I could filter through wholesalers, like if I could say I want wholesalers that have only done 100 deals or more, and Connor's name comes up in that, like I'm working with Connor, right? But I don't want the guys that have done 0 to 1 deal. Like not yet. Maybe I will soon, but not yet. Um, so I think if they're gonna go free, if they could find a, I don't know if that's even like on their radar as far as, a feature that would be beneficial to them, but I think it'd be really beneficial because Prexy does that with their brokers. I
Oh
don't know
wow.
if you've ever, yeah, so I'm more interested in the bigger commercial deals. Like we're looking at taking down RV parks for my portfolio personally. And um so I really, really like Crexy, and I think InvestorList could do something kind of similar to them. They could take a page from that book because when I go on Crexy, they can upload a flyer, they can upload an OM, they can upload the memorandum, they can upload all the due diligence documents. I don't even have to ask them for financials. If they're a good broker, all that stuff will be in the listing already. And when I go to the broker's profile, I can see the dollar amount of deals that they've closed as well as the deals that they have currently listed under their name. So like there was one broker, we looked at her RV park and she had like $16 million worth of deals listed on Crexy when her and I had a conversation.
I actually think InvestorLift has that for the buyer side. Um, I don't know. They're probably gonna have to implement that on the wholesaling side, but it's gonna be cool how all the softwares and all the tools in the real estate how it evolves. Because like with AI and everything, and just things getting just competition coming in. So essentially, there's a lot of different competitive advantages out there. It's really interesting how much this real estate just industry is gonna get so much bigger,
Hmm.
right?
It's gonna get a lot bigger. It's gonna get a little bit more crowded, but I think, just like everything else, there's a lot of people that just won't cut it and they'll just fall right back out anyway.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I've heard that there's like a really high fallout rate for wholesaling.
There's a really high fallout rate for anything that has to do with sales. And when you think about it, all wholesaling is just high ticket sales. There's a really high fallout rate for door to door sales, for cold callers outside of real estate, for personal trainers, um, for business coaches. There's high fallout rates for high ticket closers, even low ticket and medium closers, solar. Like the attrition rates are so high because it's such a hard job. That's why people get paid well. But I'm curious to see, like you said, where it's going to go, what's going to happen. and how investorless is going to continue to compete. Because I think if they do make it free, they could make a really, really big marketplace and just blow it out of the water. You know, that could be like the new Zillow, but you go to it specifically to find like a good, um, a good deal, a good price.
Software is super powerful. I love it. And I like to see it evolving as well, especially with all the AI that's getting so much better, different chips being made. I feel like the real estate industry is still a little bit small, right? I feel like it's still like the I don't like to say old people, but you know what I mean, the experienced
Which
people.
is ironic for the fact that everybody needs a house, right?
Right, exactly. It's like the experienced man's game. You know what I mean? It's like you get in it later in life. So now we're seeing like a bunch of younger guys, 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds, like really putting up numbers. And then even the education industry, right? Information industry is also booming right now. So it's like more wholesalers coming in, more investors, more money, education, software gets better. Like we just need Trump to bring the real estate market back. That's what we need.
Yeah. Let it bring the real estate market back, cap credit card interest rates do. I think where the politics go is going to be interesting too, because we saw the last 4 years all kinds of crazy fluctuations, really up and down. Um, but we're going to be following that closely over the next 4 years, like what happens with tariffs and income taxes. Um, how is that going to affect people's pocketbooks? I think in the long term it's going to be good. I think there's going to be a little bit of short term pain. We're just going to see how it plays out.
Oh yeah. I mean like the market recently just went down in terms of the stock market at $950 billion lost within a day. And that's because tariffs and just everything that's going on. It's definitely going to get worse than before it gets better. But it's interesting because I mean I started this business 3 years ago and it's apparently been the worst years of real estate since a very long time. Like this has been the hardest, maybe not for actually I don't flip. I don't do much buy and holds, but in terms of wholesaling, like people are saying like this is like the hardest time wholesaling has been um ever. So me and my brothers like and a bunch of other people, 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, we've been able to get through it. So I can't imagine like when the hedge funds come out, when the money starts coming back into real estate and maybe it leaves stock market, it leaves crypto and comes back to real property. That's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people that can't cut it in the hard times. And there's a lot of people that can't cut it even in the good times. And so we're really going to see, like you said, we're going to see a gold rush of people. But I think the real people are built in the hard times anyway. So all the rest, like, once it gets good, like you're going to have it really good. But when it gets bad again, everybody else falls completely out the bottom. You're just gonna be like, okay, like maybe pivot, maybe do this, like maybe your PPLs are costing way too much. Call
Yep.
it in 10 years, and it's not even worth it, you know? And that's really that could very well happen. It might even be in five. It might even be after this presidential term. The
Right.
PPLs could go way out of whack, or the PPCs could go way out of whack. Um, and it might be like, oh, it might just be a simple conversation like, okay, we were doing direct to seller. We need to reduce marketing costs because things are harder. We need to go back to direct to agent and then just readjust that split. Maybe now you're doing 60% DTA and 40% direct to seller.
Yep. And for everyone listening, I mean, a recent pivot that we've seen in terms of what Adam is talking about, where you had to pivot with the market, is a lot of people have been actually throwing their deals on the market, right? Through novations. Like I didn't see that happening a lot in 2023, but I'm pretty confident a lot of people did their deals last year by throwing it up on the market and an agent finds them a buyer. Like for us, I think it was like 65 to 70% of our deals were sold on market rather than off market to a buyer. So like it's those kind of little pivots that it's different nuances and it's just an extra step. where you guys are going to still be able to capitalize in such a hard time, right? Because last year, the buyers, the cash buyers, the ones that say they fix and flip, they were truly hiding, in my opinion, right? It was
Hmm.
harder to move a deal, super hard to move a deal. Maybe some deals on our side were small, and that's why it was hard. But still, like there wasn't as many buyers as there was in 2022. So what we had to do was we flat fee MLS. That's just a website, and throw it up, and then agents were just bringing the best buyers to us. Like most of our offers came from agents seeing it on the MLS, and that just small little pivot, it's like a couple hundred extra bucks to throw it up on the market or just hire an agent to list it, and it printed for us.
You said flat fee MLS.
Yes.
Did you have to have a license to use that website or no?
No. You can't do it with on market deals though, because it's like already on market.
Hmm.
But yeah, no MLS, no license. There's different flat fee MLSs out there, but it's like 150 bucks to throw it up on the market. And it doesn't say FISBO. It has an actual brokerage connected to it.
Nice.
And dude, so many of our deals were just sold that way. The other
Well,
way,
I'll tell you what we saw too, which was that people couldn't really get the steep discounts that they needed to do the flips in the first place.
mm,
So what I saw a lot of was people would get a good wholesale deal, but it would not be a good flip deal. So it would come in at like 75% ARV, but by the time they added the rehab budget in, it brought them up above the 80% in which most lenders would be willing to lend. And they didn't have the experience to command more than 80%, like 90 or 100. And 100 is usually too expensive for most people anyway, unless you're doing flips at such a crazy scale that it doesn't matter.
right.
And so what we saw was because they weren't getting those deals, like you said, a lot of people were moving over to novations. I remember all last year people were asking, what about novations? What about novations? And it's amazing to me because when you look at the purchase agreement, it's literally just like one more clause. And that's all it is. It's just a clause that basically says, like, hey, Connor, I know I have your house under contract, but we reserve the right to list it on your behalf. And you have to get like a limited power of attorney.
Yep.
Um,
Attorney in fact, too.
Most people didn't even know what a novation was because what I had heard when I first joined Sub 2, what people were looking at as novations was like, I get power of attorney for you and your house, and then I help you fix it up. Like we do the fix and flip together, and then we relist it. And that's too difficult to secure for private money, so it doesn't work most of the time because
Interesting.
you're not going to be able to raise it. There's no way. At the end of the day, you could walk and be like, I'm not selling the house, or I am selling the house, but I'm not giving you your piece, and then it just ends up being a huge court battle. And the worst I can do is put a lien against your house for you walking. But if we have some other kind of agreement, which is usually just like to improve the marketing, it's like, those people you see that go pick up free stuff on Marketplace and they bring it back and they clean it up really good and they take better pictures. I know people that do that with the properties. And so they'll go in there, they'll spend like $2,000 to $5,000 on maybe like a dumpster rental or a moving company or a professional photographer, and that is what they'll do. And sometimes they'll make an additional 30 grand on that house just
Yeah.
because of that.
Yeah. 100%. And most of the deals that end up going that way, they don't, like you said, they don't even work, can't acquire it as a wholesale cash deal. It's not deep enough. But the market sometimes has a good week, and a buyer just comes out with a lot of money, out of state buyer or something, and they want the house to just maybe just buy and hold, not even to flip it. We saw a lot of success with that last year, and we do exactly that. We'll spend a couple, it's probably like a couple $100, get some cleaners in there, deep cleaners in there, clean the place, throw away some stuff, and then just take good pictures and list it back. And we do it all virtual too. So it's all doable, whether you're
Yep.
in person or you're virtual.
But usually that seems to be the constitution of innovation is like a deep cleaner for the inside, maybe some landscaping and pressure washing on the outside if it really needs it, you know? A moving company if it's a hoarder house, because you can like either move it all into storage or you can just get dumpster rental. It's whatever the seller wants to do. And then, like you said, just a really good photographer. That's it.
An inspection report too.
Hmm.
That's good. Pay a couple $100 for a licensed inspector to just do a what we call an investor inspection or a shortened inspection. Because like most inspections, like they're pretty expensive, like 600, 700, $800. But we tell the licensed inspectors, yo, just go in there, big ticket items only. You really only need to spend 30 minutes. You can grab some photos for us, please, if you can. And then they just kind of write up a really short not agreement, really short report, and it's only like $150.
Yeah.
And you show that to any buyers that come by, and they love that. Like they love the report. Like when buyers come to our company now, they already ask, where's the report at? Because they know we're gonna give them a report. Um,
Nice.
and they love it. And what's cool is buyers can buy the house sight unseen with an inspection report. So if you can nail that down, if you can find a good connect for a licensed inspector, I would get that and then just cut a deal with them. Hey, can we just do this $120? We're gonna give you like multiple houses a month to do this. It'll be some really good short small income for you, and then just use that for as ammo for your dispo.
Buddy of mine just did that, and we were talking about that, like what's market price for boots on the ground. And what I was explaining to him, because I did boots on the ground for somebody before,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of did the same thing. I did like a little investor report for them. But that every like not no two people are created equal. And so like I told him, I was like, look, bro, like charged that other guy $100 and he didn't want to write up. He just wanted as many pictures as I could get. And then I actually went above and beyond and gave them a virtual walkthrough through like FaceTime. So they could see, and I walked and explained to them everything I saw, why I saw it this way, what the rehab I thought was. But for like $50 more, he has a guy who is a licensed inspector and would write him up like a really good detailed report with pictures and everything. And I told him, I was like, bro, that's the better product. It's not the cheaper one, right? You could find any old guy like me that could go out there with an iPhone and take all the pictures you want, and maybe do a walkthrough. But the better product that's going to help you move a property is going to be that write up.
Yep, it's been super powerful for us. Just really, just putting as much food on the table for our guests, our buyer, to make a decision. Right there, it's really good.
Yeah. Well, and then so one of the things I was going to talk about earlier, we've been talking about systems. We've been kind of talking around it. You said you build some CRMs and do some stuff like that. What other kind of things are you seeing in that space, like as far as marketing and what kind of tips can you give new investors that might help them out?
It's a good question. It could go a lot of ways. If I would just talk about systems in general, if you're following up on your lead, you're ahead of the race of everyone else, right? For a newer investor, the place where you're gonna find your most deals, it's all gonna be in the follow-ups, right? And the reason being is because those deals that buy or sell on the first phone call, there are investors out there spending 10, 20, 30K to find that deal. Okay? They're actually leaving behind the sellers that will sell in a week, in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, because they are putting money in. Because they're putting so much money in, they need money quick, so they're looking for the one call closes. So you're going to beat that big company by following up and doing it through text messages, through emails, through phone calls. You rather have a seller say, "Hey, I didn't sell to you because you didn't because you call." You rather them say, "Hey, you called too much, that's why I didn't sell to you," rather than them saying, "Hey, you didn't call enough, that's why I didn't sell to you." Right? You rather blast them as much as possible and them not sell because of that reason. So as long as you are following up, you're staying consistent, you're staying on top of your dates, and even if they don't answer your call, you're some way touching them through a text message, touching them through a voice, face video, you're touching them through I don't know, an email. You are ahead of the game because the big players are not doing that. And if they are doing that, it might be super automated to where they're kind of like they're letting the automation kind of handle that and there's no person navigating through it. So that's just something really small. As long as you're following up, you're ahead of the race. 80% of deals in sales in general happen from follow-ups. 20% come from one call closes.
Yep. I feel like too, you take it in stages, right? Like, because one of the other mistakes I see most new wholesalers make is they want the biggest, most expensive systems, and it builds them like all this overhead. Like you were just talking about starting with 600, 700 bucks a month in overhead. Um, and that even that can be a little bit high for some of these guys. So it's like you don't necessarily need the $300 a month like CRM. Most people start with a Google sheet. Like I said, with the NOLB team, we use a Trello board. And
Mm,
that's fantastic. That's like 16 bucks, and that's a big step up from a Google Sheet because you got your buckets and we have like new leads versus short-term follow-up versus long-term follow-up. And while those follow-ups are not automated yet because Trello doesn't have those automations built into it in the way that, or we just haven't built them yet
yeah.
because we have enough people on the team and their name is attached to that card, they know what their role is and they're doing it.
Yeah, I have an opinion on that. And and when I'm like in front of my clients and I'm like trying to sell them on a CRM, I really tell them if they're not fit, I'm like, look, I actually have something to sell you, but I'm not going to sell it to you because the way that I see CRMs is you have to earn it, right?
Hmm.
You have to earn it. You have to be in that point where it's like, oh my goodness, what happened to Jerry? I talked to him 2 weeks ago and he told me he wanted to sell, and where is he in my calendar? Right? It's
Yeah.
like you have to earn that. You have to earn that feeling where it's like, oh my goodness, where are my leads at? Like, what's happening? Or you have to earn the feeling where it's like, just have no freaking time to talk to my leads. I need something else, some system or some other person talking to my leads. You have to get to that point to get a CRM. I see it as a luxury, right? Not anyone can just get not anyone should just buy a designer shoes. You should earn that
Hmm.
to get the designer shoes. And I see that as a CRM. And I truly, guys, I have something to sell you. But I'm not going to sell it to you because you need to earn it first. Um, that's
Yeah.
that's my opinion on it because I think you're right. A lot of people just jump into it, shiny object syndrome, see something super cool, some AI, and then they get there and they're like, "Hold on, why am I not making money?" And it's because you're not using the system because you don't have the leads or you don't have the lead generation or the marketing to actually make that system work.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think, there's so much you can do now on a simple cell phone that those things are as good as the old CRMs were, right? Like the new CRMs are way better than a cell phone, but a cell phone's just as good, if not better, than what CRMs were for the longest time. And I think, like you said, like most people just don't earn it and they're not actually as bogged down as they think they are.
Yeah. You have to, I mean, like I was talking to someone and I was curious, I was asking him what is a CRM and if he wanted help or if he wanted to see, because I'm doing a master class in a couple of days. I was like, hey, you should join and see what I'm building on my side so you can implement on your own business. And he's like, bro, I just use Siri. And I'm like, you just talk to Siri to remind you on like when you do follows. He's like, yeah, I literally just say, hey Siri, remind me to call Jerry at 2 p.m. on Thursday. And I was like, that's interesting because that probably works if you're very small,
Mhm.
right? That actually works. So that's something that I would say. Use Siri, use Excel sheets, use Google Voice. Everything is free. I've never used a Trello board, but he just said 16 bucks a month. That's pretty solid. You need to stay as lean and mean as possible because all your money as you're starting should go to marketing. I don't think it should go to sales process at all, which is what a CRM usually does. I think all of your money as you're starting up until you get a couple deals, until you can get predictive income, is to your marketing channels. Would you agree, Adam?
Oh, totally. Because the hardest part about marketing is you don't know what works until you spend the money. And so with that, if you're putting money everywhere else, and like I said, my company outside of real estate relies on logistics. And so certain amounts of money do have to go into like regular maintenance and repairs and things of that nature. So that's money that we can't put into marketing, which sucks, but it's part of the business, right? Like when you have a logistics component, there's nothing you can do about that. You just have to pay the piper, which in our case is like insurance, it's tires, it's oil changes, it's, additional equipment like PPE, so like gloves and dollies, like whatever's required to get the job done. And that can make it difficult to scale. But to your point, like your sales process doesn't really matter. It matters about as much as your sales script does, which is not at all. Like your script is good, but as long as you're covering the bullet points, like we were saying, if you're building the rapport, and if you are that small, like my girlfriend does that. She uses reminders for everything on her phone. You know, I choose to use my calendar. It's a little bit different because my calendar has tasks built into it, which is why I made the switch from Calendly to Motion. But again, like Google Calendar is free and Google Calendar has tasks in it. So you can create tasks and events within Google Calendar, and most everybody already has a Gmail. So, like, what are you waiting for, you know? But I would
Agree.
say that you can definitely start with, I mean, probably $50 a month or less. And some of the cheapest CRMs will cost you that, but you can cover your entire basis for, like you said, like $10 a month here, $16 a month there. My calendar is like 35, which is on the higher side, but even that's not bad.
Yeah. Yeah, all your money should go to marketing. If you have a W-2, your extra money should be going to marketing, and I honestly don't think you should be cold calling. I think to agents, different. You need to be calling your agents. But if you're going direct to seller and cold calling, you should not do that. I call that an MWA, minimum wage activity. Because I had cold callers that were as good as cold calling than me in getting the four pillars, condition, motivation, timeline, price for $3.50. So if I'm doing that
Mhm.
activity, I'm essentially telling God that God, I actually think that my hour is worth $3.50. Or I'm telling my family that my hour is worth 3.50, which is not true. If you guys are listening on this, if you guys are listening to this video right now, I can guarantee your guys' wage, I would say, is probably over $100 an hour. You're here, you're learning, you're listening, you're trying to gather knowledge. Everyone out there that's not doing that, have them do the minimum wage stuff. You're here for a reason. I think if you have a W-2 income or if you have some income outside, throw it into marketing. And if you're doing cold calling, hire a cold caller and just get a dialer. You can dial with that cold caller on the cold caller's off hours, but you should be talking to leads or talking to agents in the meantime.
Yeah. And your time's only worth that much if you're executing on it.
Yep.
I think that's the big thing. Like you're saying, like there's the minimum wage activity, but and most people want to do that because it's busy and it feels like you have a lot of work on your plate and they get overwhelmed. But the truth is, if you're not having the sales calls, you're not making the money, right? Like you got to close the deals. You and then once you close the deals, you get those big checks in, you can start to break that data down. If you did a 10 grand deal in 1 month, well, how many hours of sales calls did you have to work to get to that one $10,000 deal? You break that down. If it's 1,000 hours, well, then you're still doing all right. But if it took you 10,000 hours, well, you're not doing all right. And you need to execute and look at your processes and see where you can do a little bit better on. And I will say this too about executing on time is when you try to mix both. you get the blended average. So, like, let's say, like you said, it's a minimum wage activity. If I'm cold calling, setting my own appointments, and I'm closing the deals, I'm getting the blended average between 350 and $100 an hour, which
Yep.
is not very good, right? That's going to drop your earning potential down significantly from that $100 an hour. That 350 is going to drag you all the way back down almost right to 50. Probably put you at like 51.25 or something like that. Um, but that's not like it's just not ideal, right? So that's one thing that I look at is like what's the blended average? Same way we would look at a deal. Um, we had two appointments that we did. So I told you about the first one, which was the barn. The second one was actually it would have been a super cool deal to do. It just was not their valuation of the deal was way off. So it was actually an old blueberry farm, and they were
Mhm.
trying to sell this big piece of land. It's like 30 acres. They were trying to sell it for like $10,000 an acre. And I was like, huh, this could be interesting. So we went and looked at it. They're looking for like 300 grand. They're willing to do owner finance. It's like, all right, let's go take a look. Of course, get out there. It's overgrown. It's got trash everywhere. Like, there's nothing here that says that this commands $10,000 an acre because it's not even a dwelling on there. It's just raw land.
Wow.
So 7 acres planted, the other 23, or there's about 21 and a half that are wooded and 1.6 or so that are cleared. Well, you go look up what's the average cost per acre in that parish because we have parishes instead of counties.
Mhm.
Average cost is 3,500. And so the girlfriend was asking me, she's like, well, what do you think's wrong here? And I was like, well, besides a lot, right? Like their valuation is not, they're trying to value it based on selling a business, but there's no assets. They
Yeah.
didn't do an asset sale. They're just trying to sell the land with the income potential because there's certain assets that could not physically be removed, i.e., 3,000 blueberry bushes and a 7 acre irrigation system. You can't remove that, but it also doesn't add any value to the land.
Yep.
And that's what I was telling her. It's like if they did the asset sale and they sold you the customer list and the equipment and you got the tractors and the this and that while the business was still fresh before they let it go, they could have walked out of there with 350, 400 grand, but they didn't. And I told her the other faulty problem here is 23 acres or so is totally undeveloped. So you're trying to sell 23 acres of undeveloped land for a developed price.
Yeah.
And they didn't even think about taking the blended average of that and saying, because they could have said, like, look, we want 60, 70 grand, which is 10,000 per acre for the seven that are planted,
Yeah.
plus the average cost of what undeveloped land would go for, which is 3,500 per acre. And that would have brought them somewhere in like the 100, 150 range for the whole plot. But they didn't. And so when we looked at it, we are like, yeah, bro, you're basically double
Yeah.
what it's worth.
Yeah. I like that analogy that you put out. That makes sense. The blended averages. So what you want,
Well,
what you're saying is you want to, in terms of time, if we just go back to that conversation, you want to just
mhm.
optimize as much as possible where you're spending your time very wisely, especially for people with W-2s. Like you got to be spending your time like giving offers because you and I both know the only way to scale, you can scale through a system, you can scale through building a team, but the only way you scale is if you give offers, right?
I
So,
had somebody teach me how to do a time study, and what they did was they gave you four buckets, and you would write down each activity that you did it that day, and there was a $10 an hour bucket, $100 an hour bucket, $1,000 an hour bucket, and priceless. And so you had to label the activities that you were doing and place them in those buckets. And $10 an hour would be like you said, like appointment setting or cold calling or social media posting or sweeping floors or doing whatever. And then your $100 an hour bucket would be more like your sales activities, your marketing activities, your things that are bringing good, consistent revenue in. And then your $1,000 an hour buckets are really working on the business. Like you said, at that point, it's like replacing yourself, hiring like HR and doing and really building out the structure and making sure that you've got solid bones in the business. And then priceless is the stuff that the $1,000 activities buy back for you, like spending time with your kids or spending time with your girlfriend or your wife or your husband or boyfriend or your dad or your mom or whatever.
That's good. I'm gonna do that with me and my brothers.
Yeah, I think if you go to YouTube, you can just look it up like time study and it'll tell you.
Okay. Thank you, bro. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. That's one of the things that like I said, it was a big shift for me. And especially when you've had, like you said, life is short, is finite. I've had more than one thing that probably should have taken me out and it didn't.
Wow.
And when you have that like perspective shift, you're like, oh, like I really, really do need to have my time well accounted for because task transition is real. Time is our most valuable asset, but our most expensive asset is our attention, right? Like we can never get time back, but attention can can kill time. You
Mm,
split attention, you lose time.
yep.
And so that's where I was at was like when you split attention, that's when you start getting into all these different tasks and you're doing the $3.50 task, the $100 an hour task. You might do $1,000 an hour task every once in a blue moon. And your blended average is garbage, and you find out you're like, well, why am I getting paid like $12 an hour on average per month? Like that's what I'm bringing home. I'm only taking home like 2 grand a month. Like, well, that's why because you're not doing the high level activities that get you there.
Yep. It's hard
And
to also gain that perspective that that's the task you have to do too.
well, I get it. Like when you start out, you don't have any money, you don't have any body. And so you do have to do a lot of the low level tasks. But the hard part about a startup is that you have to do both. You don't have an option. So you have to do all the low level tasks. And then, like late at night or whatever, even if you work 10 hours on the low level stuff, you still have to come home do the high level stuff because otherwise you'd just be stuck doing low level stuff in a job you created for yourself.
Yep. Yeah.
So I know we're gonna start winding this thing down here real soon. I've got a couple final questions for you. The first one is super simple. Where can people find you? How do they connect with you? If they want to do a deal or JV or whatever, how do they reach you?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook. My name, Conner Rueca, ConnerRueca. On Instagram, you can find me. I try to post as much as possible, so you can see me get really active, kind of get to know me more on my Instagram stories, stuff like that. That's Capable Connor. Capable Connor. And then honestly, I'll just give my phone number 650-346-7907. I'm a regular person just like you guys. I'm nothing special. I work extremely hard. I got great people around me, and I'm trying to put more people around me that are kind of on the same on the same mountain climbing as me and my brothers. So reach out to me, please. I would love to get to know you. We'll chat it up. We can call, do whatever. But yeah, that's where you guys can find me.
And then the final question I ask everybody, I never get the same answer, is you're sitting across the table from a brand new investor. So what would be the one piece of advice that you wish you had when you were that brand new investor? Like what would you give them?
That's a really good question. Um,
It makes everybody think.
yeah. If I'm talking to just an investor in general of all ages, I would say do not let your here let me do not let your education, no, do not let your portfolio outgrow your education, right? Or you could say, do not let your portfolio outgrow your personal development. So what that means is, um, continue to invest in yourselves, um, before your portfolio. That's my take. Because you can let your portfolio outgrow your personal development, and you're like, shit, I'm in the hole in some way, right? And that's what happened to me and my brothers as well. That's why I say it. So personal
Hmm.
development over portfolio, because you are the business, not whatever you're buying.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is definitely true. I think investing in personal development is what helps you build the relationship capital, and the relationship capital is way more valuable than the actual capital.
Exactly.
You and I could do deals if we had $0 in the bank account tomorrow, just with the relationships that we've built. Maybe even with this relationship right here, you never know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the power of personal development, and also just talking to people. Jumping on a podcast with Adam. Guys, hit Adam up. Amazing guy. Do a podcast with him. He'll really pull it out of you.
Yeah, we always have a good time. All right, guys, that is the episode for the week. Y'all know how we do these. We do these every single Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. If we made you think, if we made you laugh, we brought you value. If what you thought, if what you got here was good, that's all we ask, that you come back and that you tell a friend. So until next time, we will see everybody on next week's with Miri.